follow. But that would be no more than if I'm the owner of a house, that of course I lay down certain rules that the tenants of my house have to follow, that whatever, that they have to clean the stairs once a week and things like this. So this king is part of a natural order and not yet a state king. He neither taxes nor legislates. He only collects rents and lays down the rule of the house of which he himself is the genuine owner. The decisive step that he must take in order to transform his position into the position of a state would be the following. The king at one point would have to say, so to speak, now you must come to me whenever you have a conflict with somebody else. You can no longer go to anybody else for conflict resolution. Up to this point, you chose me, so to speak, voluntarily to be the judge in all cases of conflict. Now I take away this possibility from you to turn to others, and I take the right away from others to act, if they should be chosen as judge, to do so. Now, you immediately recognize that by taking this seemingly small step, the king does engage in an act of expropriation. In particular, visible is this act of expropriation vis-à-vis the other leaders in society, the other nobles, so to speak, to whom conflicting parties could have turned to receive justice. Again, recall, in the feudal order, it was precisely the fact that there existed a large number of independent, separate jurisdictions, so to speak. Each lord was responsible to create justice within his own territory, over his own property. Now he can no longer do this. So it is in particular the other nobles of whom we would expect that they will put up resistance against this attempt of the king to monopolize, to acquire the exclusive monopoly, no longer a natural monopoly, but in this case it becomes a compulsory monopoly, of being the ultimate and final judge in cases of conflict. How can the king get away with this? The first step, and again I offer you here, so to speak, not in his precise historical description of what had happened here or there, but something that you might call a logical reconstruction of what has happened more or less all over the place. The first step is for the king to cause and bring about a crisis situation. And how does he bring about a crisis situation? In a way that is not very difficult to explain. Just as we recognize how natural, how easy it is to have the motivation to become a state, we can also recognize that among mankind there exists always the temptation, the itching, so to speak, especially among the tenants, to free themselves from their rent payments and the rules laid down for them by their own landlords. That is, tenants, wherever you go, you can imagine that it would be not all that difficult to persuade them to engage in some sort of riots against their own landlords. Say, I free you of the rent payment that you must pay. I free you of the disciplinary rules that your landlord imposes on you, and I promise you to make you a free man. I promise you that you will become the owner of those things which you previously only occupied as a tenant. Or in a slightly different scenario, you as a king, so to speak, incite a riot among the poor against the rich. You form a coalition with the poor against your own immediate competitors, that is, the well-to-do people in society that somehow are rivals to the most direct rivals to the king. So then you create, so to speak, a civil war. That is to say, you create a situation that is similar to the situation that Hobbes claims exists, so to speak, naturally among mankind. Recall, I explained that the natural condition of mankind is not war of all against all. People do recognize that division of labor is beneficial, and because of this tend to be in favor of peaceful cooperation. At least the large majority of people do this. But you can incite, especially if you are yourself an influential person, a person that is trusted by the masses. If you are the king, you can incite a situation that brings about a situation such as of a war of all against all. And then in this situation where the war of all against all breaks out, where the tenants rise against their landlords and the poor rise against the rich, then you come to the rescue of the nobles, the middle classes, and strike some sort of compromise. That is, you get the promise from the nobles and your immediate competitors, yes, we will give up our former right to act as judge ourselves and grant you an exclusive right to be the monopoly judge in exchange for you and us getting together and stopping this civil war conditions that exist. This was, by the way, precisely the situation, for instance, during the Middle Ages, especially during the so-called Protestant Revolution, when first, so to speak, the Protestant revolutions resulted in big-time looting activities and so forth, and then people turning to the kings and saying, this sort of stuff has to be stopped, and in order to stop it, we will grant you the exclusive right to be the judge. So you create a Hobbesian situation. The Hobbesian situation does not exist from the outset, but it can be created. Again, let me just read you a quote here from Henri